Testing, testing, testing. Hi there, guys. My name is Rohan, and today we are going to be talking about how caffeine works. Today we are going to be talking about, how does caffeine work? Okay? So, have you ever drinking a cup of coffee? Well, I haven't, but have you ever drinking one or just any way of sort of caffeine, right? And it gives you all these effects and stuff. So did you know that 100,000 metric tons of caffeine are eaten or consumed every year? That's the weight of that is equal to 14 Eiffel Towers. Okay. Now, caffeine can be consumed in many ways. It can be in many ways, such as tea, coffee, but also chocolate, sodas, even too, caffeine pills, and even some other stuff like decaf. Okay, and it also has many effects on the body. Okay, for example, it keeps you awake and alert, makes you happy and energetic and very focused. But it can also increase your blood pressure and make you anxious. Okay, but how does caffeine actually keep you awake? Since these effects also happen when you're sleepy, right? It prevents you from sleeping. But how does it actually work? Okay? So the thing is, caffeine evolved from plants. Okay? So it evolved from these specific plants, and some specific species have high dosages of caffeine in their leaves and seeds, right? So toxic, well, it's toxic to bugs and insects for the caffeine, right? They eat any one of those, they die because it's too toxic for them. But in lower dosages, in some other species, such as nectar and pollen, right? Well, mostly nectar in these low dosages, it can help the insect remember that specific plant and revisit it, okay? Since it's so good, okay? Now, our body, okay? How caffeine works on our body is that it's a stimulant for the central nervous system. How, you might ask? Well, it blocks something called adenosine. What is it? Well, you see, our body has a bunch of energy. It needs to consume a lot of energy. So it consumes a bunch of these high energy molecules called ATPs. And when they're used, right, a remnant of them, a leftover, is adenosine. And what adenosine does is it helps us sleep. You see, our brain has a bunch of these adenosine receptors. The adenosines go in, right? And once they go into these receptors, they activate a biochemical reaction, which basically puts the neuron to sleepy mode, right? And it basically slows down everything, and in short form, it makes you sleepy. Okay? Now, some of the benefits of, not benefits. So that's basically what happens, okay? Sorry for that. But what does caffeine do? So what it does is that the caffeine molecules, okay, what they do is that they go in before the adenosine can come into the receptors and blocks them, okay, blocking them off, which keeps us awake, okay, blocks it off, the adenosine can't get in, hence making you not sleepy, okay. Now, another reason is, uh, another question is, how do we get happy from this? You see, some of these receptors also have another receptor attached to it for something called dopamine. And what dopamine this dopamine is a feel good chemical, okay? It makes us happy, right? So some of these receptors have receptors for dopamine, but when adenosine comes into those receptors, it shortens the space for the dopamine receptor to take it in, so it can't work. But since caffeine comes in, there's enough room, the dopamine comes in, hence we get happy. And the thing is, there are some long term benefits to being on caffeine, such as reduced risk of diseases like diseases like Alzheimer's, and can reduce the risk of some types of cancers. Okay, and okay, it also burns fat fast, like very fast, so fast that during the Olympics there is a limit for how much caffeine you can even intake. Okay, but the thing is, caffeine also has some downsides with it. Sure, it can keep you awake, right? But your heart rate will be increased, your blood pressure will also be increased. You have to urinate more, and you'd also have diarrhea, insomnia, and anxiety, okay? Around that type, okay? Now, but the thing is, okay, our brain can adapt to regular consumption of caffeine. What happens is that, sure, okay, a bunch of these receptors have been taken, the brain will just simply make more of these receptors for more dopamine. That's why after we need more and more not coffee or tea, but caffeine, we need more of it, so that way it can keep us awake, at alert, okay, at the same rate, because there are more receptors that are there, right? The more the caffeine has to slot them in, okay? Now, that also means that, let's say you suddenly quit caffeine, it's going to be a bit of a rough outing, as I guess I could say. So what would happen is that since there are so many receptors, right, the adenosine gets into overtime and basically just makes you depressed. Okay, it makes you sluggish, depressed, and some stuff like that. But eventually those will eventually grow out, and you'll eventually your body will get adjusted to it, and eventually you'll feel stable and normal. Okay, that's basically how caffeine works. And that's basically it. Thank you for watching this video, and hope to see you next time.